anyone up for a pint of welcome to the Academy of Imperfection, where experts in their field share their wisdom on the subject of imperfection. Today's lecturer is former rugby league champion and current coach of the Queensland Maroons, Billy Slater.
If you reward regularly, then when it's time to give some constructive criticism or feedback, it's taken in the right way because that person who you're talking to is that they know that you're in their corner.
So postpone croquet and join students Hugh, Ryan and Josh in the Academy of Imperfection.
Well, I feel like we're going to have a lot of sports fans tuned into this episode and more, but I can't quite believe it. We've got Billy Slater here as our guest lecturer in the Academy of Imperfection. Have you ever been a lecturer, Billy?
No, I was about to say that's the first time I've ever been called a lecturer.
Well, first time. It might be a new career.
Maybe. You never know. I'll give it a go.
It's going to be great. This is exciting. So, Hugh, you're friends with Billy. This is the first flex that's going to happen of the episode.
No, yes, we are friends.
Yeah. Glad we established that.
Yeah. Yes. No,
You're a bold thing to deny it now.
Can't stand the guy.
Well, the reason I said no is I was saying no, I won't be flexing on this episode at all. But I am so excited to have Billy here. Billy and I have known each other for quite a long time now, since about 2015, I think it was. I was very lucky to be invited into the Melbourne Storm. That was very life-changing for me. And I'll talk about how I've worked with Billy recently, but I think I just want to start by saying that, so Billy, as he came in, said, I'm actually a bit nervous about this one today. And I reckon I think I know the reason you're nervous. I feel like it's because you're going to have to talk about yourself a bit today, and you never talk about yourself. You never pump yourself up. It's something you're very uncomfortable doing.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I did mention that when I walked in. I actually called my wife, Nicole, just before I got out of the car, and I said, I'm really nervous. Like I talk on national television every week.
Yeah.
And I'm not nervous. But I think you're right, because I'm talking about other people. I'm talking about the game that I know a lot about.
Yeah.
I was very comfortable talking about that. But just going back on the first time we met, I remember when Hugh came into the Melbourne Storm, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the first professional organisation that you'd actually spoken to.
Yeah, it was the first elite sporting club I've ever worked with, yes.
Yeah. So Hugh came along and spoke to us, and I'll be honest, I thought, here we go. Here's another psychologist trying to get into my head. And within 5 minutes of Hugh talking, I was totally changed. I did 180 degrees, and I was like, wow, all the stories that Hugh talks about, they're just so relevant to life. And it was that infectious that we got our wives and partners to come along to a talk with Hugh, and it was, talk about life-changing for yourself, Hugh. It was certainly life-changing for us, and I still take those principles and what you spoke about in that meeting in our daily life now.
I wonder whether it'd be worth at this point, because there is, believe it or not, a smattering of people listening who don't know who Billy Slater is, because we've mentioned like Melbourne Storm and rugby and on TV every week, but Hugh, would it be worth doing like a quick rundown of who we're?
Yeah, I mean, Billy's
legend of the sport.
One of the greatest players in the history of rugby league. 320 games, I think it is, of NRL footy.
Yep.
31 games representing Queensland, which puts you in the top 10 of all time. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Completely reinvented the way that the fullback position is played in the game, modernised the way the game is played. As a player, and now the influence on the game as head coach of the Queensland State of Origin team. Going back about 3 years now, Billy gave me a call and said, "Can we catch up? I want to chat to you about something." And we caught up in Richmond, and you said, "I was wondering if you'd be interested in working with the Queensland State of Origin side. I think it'd be great to have you in, and we could." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. As long as the coach is keen, I'm in." And Billy goes, well, I'm the coach. So I went, oh, okay, shit. Yeah, definitely. And so now as the coach, he was described as the greatest coach in the game right now. And he's only coached 6 games of Origin footy in his life. And it's hard to argue that with 2 Origin wins as coach. He is the most famous Queenslander. There is the most loved Queenslander. Again, I can see you getting very uncomfortable, so I'll cut this bit short.
I'm like, where do I need to go?
So I'll leave it there. But yes, we are in the Academy of Imperfection, and we come here so we can learn off people. For a long time, I've wanted to do the topic of leadership. For a long time, that's what I've wanted to talk about. And we've had discussions about who would do that.
I kept putting my hand up, and you're like, "No, I reckon we can find someone better." And I was like, "Really? I'd like to see you try." I did captain mixed netball for 2 years. So
You captain?
Wow,
What position?
basically, I was GA.
Okay.
Yeah. And then graciously moved to GS when I needed to, but
Okay.
we all knew I needed to be in GA.
Leadership.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, you moved past me and thought, nah, Billy Slater might be better at leadership than
Well, it was
Chelsea.
just. So, having worked with the Melbourne Storm, I was in awe of Billy then. And then when you are part of the Stage of Origin squad, you kind of go on the camps and you live with them and you get to know them much better. And a lot of people would ask me what it was like with Billy and with Queensland. And there's quite a few reflections I have on it. But one of the main things I thought was Billy is, and it's going to make you very awkward, but this is how we're going to do this today, Billy. I'm going to talk about you and you can reflect on my reflections on you. So it's not as awkward.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I think having worked with a lot of sporting teams, elite sporting teams around the country, a lot of corporate groups, Billy is the most incredible leader I've ever worked with or had the privilege of working alongside. And I have so many stories to support that, but I just want to pick a few today to tell. And then maybe, Billy, you can give us your thoughts on leadership in relation to those stories, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Love it. Let me know if you need me to step in at any point.
So Billy is the head coach. He's come from being, how many series wins did you have as a player?
Yeah, so we went through an incredible run. So I was a part of a team that won 8 series in a row. So for 8 years, we were unbeaten under the coaching of Mel Meninga, who was a Queensland legend, played in the first Queensland ever game, and he came in as a coach of Queensland. And then we lost 2014, but we'd won the next, I think it was 2 or 3. So we'd won 11 out of 12 years, and that was that was an incredible run. But it was also an incredible connection with a group of players that I won't say it won't be done again, because that's what we're trying to achieve now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary run. And then the success you had at the Melbourne Storm as well was just quite incredible. 4 premierships, the Melbourne Storm. You've won fullback of the year how many times?
I don't know.
Okay, lots of times.
When you lose count, it's a
It's
lot.
pretty cool.
So an incredible career. But I want to talk about you as a leader. So let's start with one of the first experiences I had on camp. We were sitting around and quite a few of the players went off to bed, and you were talking to a group of the coaches.
So when you say camp, do you mean like this is leading up to the games?
Yeah,
So we're going to camp for 10 days
Yeah.
leading into the game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember it was the first camp I'd been to, and the players had gone off to bed. Some of the coaches were chatting about training, and I was new to the group, so I didn't know who some of the assistant coaches were. So I can't remember who it was, but one of the coaches said, I gave some feedback to one of the players today. He didn't take it too well. Billy very quickly said, and I'll never forget this, he said, how many times have you told him how good you think he is? How many times have you stopped him to tell him what he did was really great? How many times have you told him what an amazing player you think he is? Because, and there was a bit of a pause, and whoever it was said, I don't reckon I have at all. And then Billy said, well, I don't reckon you've got the right to tell them what they did wrong. And you said, don't expect a good outcome if you haven't told them how good you think they are. You obviously believe very strongly in your philosophy around giving really positive feedback often.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been a big part of your coaching or leadership?
It's something that I became conscious of at the back end of my career as a more senior player, and as someone that sort of demanded a lot from our teammates, that if you reward regularly, then when it's time to give some constructive criticism or feedback, it's taken in the right way, because that person who you're talking to is that they know that you're in their corner. You've been a part of their development. You've earned the right to be a leader. I don't know. I don't see myself as a leader. I never set out to be a leader. I suppose I am, like being a senior person and being someone who other people follow, being a coach or a teacher. You know, I suppose you're a leader, but I never set out to be a leader. I've always liked the idea of being a good person and setting a good example. But yeah, in that situation, I've always been a person who sees everything, and it's important to actually pick up on everything. You can't just pick up on the bad things, because then the person doesn't know if you're in their corner or not. So when you've got that credit in the bank, those standards that you're trying to pick up in that player or that person are taken the right way.
So good. Oh.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the time in leadership positions, we feel like it's a big part of our job to give feedback to people. But the word feedback, we straight away think like
Negative.
Yeah. So, and we think, well, it's coming from a good place. I'm trying to help them to be better. But I totally agree with you. If the person doesn't feel like there's care there, or you've noticed the good stuff, it just hits a brick wall, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is funny, actually, weirdly, when we all love, well, I imagine we all love getting positive feedback, but when you're in the position where you're in the role to give feedback, you're like, I tend to look out for the things that could be improved, as opposed to spending any time, and I just assume that the person knows that they're doing a good job.
It's funny you say that. Improvement is always looked upon as getting your weaknesses better, right? But you can improve by outlaying your strengths more. So if you've got strengths, bring your strengths. We want more of that. How do we get more of that in our game? How do we get more of that in our team? And then make that infectious within the group. We somehow feel like we want to fix everything. All right, sure, we're not perfect, right? We're the imperfects.
We sure are.
But it's sometimes about, and especially in our situation where we've got players for 10 days in a build-up, we don't have time to fix everything or try and improve everyone's weaknesses. We just want the best versions of themselves to be at their best for that game of footy. So sometimes it's about bringing more of your strengths.
It seems to me very much yourself, along with Crowley, the head of strength and conditioning. You seemed very much to have this philosophy around, and I never heard you articulate this, but it looks from the outside, well, not the outside, looks from the inside like it's happy and healthy athletes. You've got however many young men, 15 young men on a camp together, about to do something extraordinary together under a lot of pressure. It felt like to me the whole experience is around happy and healthy.
In that situation where you have a short period of time in a high pressure situation and you want to try and achieve something. We're trying to create an enjoyable environment. Coaching is important, sure. The tactical side of coaching is important, but it's nearly less important than the environment that you're setting and the reason why the players are playing. And like coaching is just guiding. So the reason is there, and it's all for Queensland. It's all for the people of Queensland. And these players, they know that because they were the people of Queensland growing up, idolising this team and being inspired by this team. So it's only directing that energy in the right avenue to bring that out. So the environment is hugely important, and having smiles on people's faces while they're in there makes them want to go back there and wants to be there more.
I'm kind of not confused. I think I have been confused in the past about the idea of kind of masculinity and toughness. I feel like for a lot of men or that I've come across, the idea of giving other men compliments would be a weakness. And I was wondering how do you see that in the world that you're trying to create? Because I doubt that there's a lack of toughness in the people you work with or the world that you live in.
Certainly. I think it's fairness. Like we still have to give tough feedback, like honest feedback. But if it's fair, that's when it's taken right. And look, I think if you go through life and you never get any criticism or you never get that tough conversation from especially people that are close to you, I think that probably creates more weakness than toughness. So I think it's a balance. But at the end of the day, you need to know what your strengths are, and you need to understand the people around you know those strengths as well. That's why it's important to voice that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So day one of camp, the first camp I went on, we were staying in a hotel in Brisbane, and
you're going to go through every day? So we walk in, right? We get there, some apples and
Well, the food on offer is, if you want to talk about the food.
I remember you told me actually.
I've probably sent you photos. It's like, well, that's my favourite part of camp, and it's right up there. The food always on offer.
Pretty good.
That's amazing. So I had spoken, and then you talked. This is at the start of the camp, and then at the end of your talk, I wanted to play. I was so fired. I never played the game. I still don't know the rules properly, but it was such a great. You opened the camp so beautifully, and then you said to everyone, "Okay, guys, we're going to walk to training. We're going to walk to Suncorp Stadium." And I was in the back of the room on my phone looking at Google Maps, going, "The fuck? How far? Why are we walking? Surely we're going to bus here." And I looked it up, and it was like a 35-minute walk, and I'm thinking, "There's a bus out the front. It'll take us 2 minutes." And as we walked along, I don't know if the players are thinking the same thing. I'm not really sure, but as we walked along, the people of Queensland would stop their car and they'd yell out messages of support. People were stopping to take photos. There were people coming off the street hugging the players, and it was very respectful. But I realised 5 minutes in why we were walking. And when we got to Suncorp, you stopped all of us outside the stadium and just said, I really want you to pay attention to the impact you had on the people that we walked past. They're the people we're doing this for. How much thought do you put into creating moments? Because I felt there were a lot of moments that happened on the camp that were, rather than you saying to everyone, guys, don't forget this means a lot to Queensland.
Yeah.
You sort of curated those experiences for us.
It's as much about creating feeling as it is about creating the moment, and the feeling that those players felt when they were walking down the street and people were stopping work and hanging out the business windows and yelling at Queenslander and the cars going past, and that's a reminder. It's not about forcing our players into a motivation. It's a reminder of what this team means to our state and the people of our state, and they were once those people looking up to this team, and now they get the opportunity to inspire our whole state. And sometimes as a rugby league player in the NRL, you have 27 weeks of home and away season, then you have finals. There's only 52 weeks in the year, so you're a lot about week to week, about what did I do well, what did I improve. Your head's down, you've got the blinkers on, you're one foot in front of the other. Sometimes you can forget about that big picture and that memory of when you were sitting on the lounge room floor on a Wednesday night watching Wally Lewis and Alan Langer play for Queensland, and how that made you feel. And sometimes it's just about sitting back and looking at that big picture. And that's what those moments are designed to do, is just remind our players of, hey, this is about a much bigger picture than you. There's a higher purpose than for you to go out there and play well in a football game. You know, reminding players of when they were kids and when they were growing up and what this team meant to them. So, yeah, all those little things, like I said, the coaching is important, but those little feelings and those little moments are probably equally, if not more so, as important.
I mean, I grew up in Victoria, so rugby league, AFL's been my sport growing up. So I don't know a lot about rugby league, but I was in Brisbane 1 year for an Origin game when it was being played in Brisbane, and I think it must have been when I was doing radio. So we were there for like an Origin event, and we were at some big pub, and everyone started walking to the game. Like it's like the streets were closed.
The Caxton Street.
We're in the Caxton.
Probably, yeah. And it's like the entire city was walking down this street from the same pub. That's what it felt like. And it was incredible, just like the unity of the people.
Yeah.
And like everyone was going for the same team, obviously. It was so powerful. It was so powerful.
Yeah, that's it's hard to create, and it's driven by the people. You know, just going back to that first day when we walked to training, and when I got offered the Queensland State of Origin coaching job, I thought, we've got to have Queenslanders around us. Queensland is a real essential part of what we're doing here. But there was one non-Queenslander that I wanted to bring in, and that was Hugh. Like, this is honestly, I thought, what better way to actually channel our players' minds in the right way than to have someone like Hugh and talk about empathy, gratitude, mindfulness, and just, if nothing else, this is going to make them a better person. And that first day that we went in 2022, Hugh spoke for about an hour. He put us late. which is
I was going to say,
I got in trouble for it. But
an hour is actually pretty quick.
and then we walked to training, and we felt the support from the Queensland public, and we got to Suncorp Stadium, and we had all our media commitments. We had our fittings, we had photos, all that sort of stuff, and we were there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, at 6 o'clock, we went and had dinner. We come back, and then they were there for another 3 hours. We didn't leave till 11 o'clock that night. So from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock that night, that's 10 hours. They were out of their hotel. This is day one. And not one player whinged about how long is this going to take. At 11 o'clock at night, they were underwater, doing the Channel 9.
The hype stuff.
Yeah, all the pre-game.
Fire and water
all
and-
that sort of stuff. And not one player. And that's a reflection of the group as well. That it's such a humble and respectful group, and they were grateful for their opportunity. But Hugh channeled their minds into feeling like that and into understanding why they're here and the gratitude that surrounds, being a Queensland State of Origin player. So, that was just a little story on that first day. And I believe it's set the playing group up for what they've done the last 2 years.
Wow.
So just on that, I remember that night, and we'd been there for a long time, been there all day at the stadium. And at that point, I haven't got much to do, so I'm kind of walking around trying to meet people and get to know people, but everyone's off busy doing their own thing. And at about 7:30, one of the managers said to you, Billy, you're done, mate, you can go. Big day tomorrow, so we'll get you back to the hotel. And you said, no, I'm staying. Well, he asked me the question. I went, okay, cool, no worries, let's go. And then
Might be able to get back before the
buffet?
Room service closes at 11, so I should race back.
But I did. I was like, yeah, cool, let's go. And then the next morning, I saw Billy and I said, how'd you go yesterday? And he said, oh, long day, pretty tired. And I realised Billy had been asked the same question at 7:30. Do you want to go back to the hotel? And Billy said, no, I'm staying with the players. And you were there, I think it was a bit later than 11:30 in the end, but stayed with the players. You had nothing to do there, but you're with them all the way. And I think that around leadership, it's just like you wouldn't get anyone to, very much consistent with what people say about you. You'd never get anyone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yep.
And I think that's a really important part of your leadership style, I believe.
Well, I got set a great example early in my professional athlete life, and I was about 19 years old. First time down at the Melbourne Storm. I got an opportunity to come down and train in the preseason. Wasn't guaranteed a spot. I was expected to go back to Brisbane, play reserve grade that year. And it just so happened to be Craig Bellamy's first year as the head coach of the Melbourne Storm, which he still currently holds, which is incredible. I think it's 21 years.
Longest serving head coach,
at the one club, yeah. So we would get to training at 6 a.m. at the Melbourne Storm that year. And Craig Bellamy will be on the rower, sweating, working. And then halfway through the day, we'd go and run the tan or run up hills at Studley Park, and Craig Bellamy would be in Group 1 doing it with the players. And then we'd leave training at 5:30 in the afternoon. Craig Bellamy would be there doing video, watching the skills session and cutting video for the next day and that. So I got an idea and I got a vision of what a leader looked like. And I believe Craig Bellamy's greatest attribute is his work ethic. Now, if you want a good work ethic within your players, if you want a good work ethic within your organisation, you can't expect them to have it but you not have it. So you've got to lead the way. So the leaders go first, right? And Craig Bellamy certainly led the way for me in that. So I just felt, well, if the players are here, I'm here too. So that was just something that, whether they picked up on it or not, but I had stuff to do. I thought, well, I'm going to do it here with the players. And
well, I mean, you picked up on it. You picked up on it with Craig, so I'm sure they pick up on it with you.
Then I looked around and I was like, "Where's Hugh? Where's Hugh gone?"
You get a message. Hey, mate, they're closing the buffet in 5 minutes. Are you going to make
Sure
it?
you don't want some? I'll grab your plate anyway.
Can I just ask a quick question, actually, which may or may not be helpful for this episode, but I'm really interested. So, like, as a Queenslander from Brisbane, you just sort of talked about how, like, passionate Queenslanders are.
Yep.
Was that a strange thing to move to play for a Melbourne team? Is that a big deal, or is that just normal?
Yeah, I would have went to the moon. Honestly, it's so a little bit of my background. So I was I was born on the Sunshine Coast. We moved to Innisfail, where my dad was from, which is a little country town in far north Queensland. I grew up in a rugby league area, in a rugby league family. My father played and coached my whole childhood, and ever since I can remember, since I was 3 years old, I started playing the game, and I just wanted to be an NRL player. I actually stopped playing football when I was 15 years old, and I was getting into the horses, doing show jumping, gymkhanas, which I'm fortunate that I did, because I actually met my future wife back then, and still my wife today.
Yep.
Which is great. And then I got back into footy, but it's all I wanted to be. So I got the opportunity to, pretty much the only opportunity through the Melbourne Storm, to come down and be an NRL player, and I think that was always something in the front of my mind every time that I came off contract. I thought, well, if I've got the opportunity to stay here, I feel a real loyalty to this club, and they've given me the opportunity, and just so happened to be a great organisation with great people involved as well.
Amazing.
I can't remember which game it was. We were in South Australia, you and I were sitting outside the hotel, just chatting for about probably an hour, and a lot of Queenslanders had flown to South Australia for this game, and I'm not exaggerating. In that hour, Billy would have been asked to do, 80 selfies with people just walking past, and you said yes to every single person. And not only did you say yes, but you engaged every one of them in a conversation. It was, so whereabouts are you from? When did you get down here? Where are you staying? Made for Billy and my conversation was quite disjointed, as you can imagine. But and later that day, I got asked what the players are like with the public, and I said, they're unbelievable. They stop. They have so much time for everyone. And then it kind of dawned on me, well, of course they are, because they're watching their hero and coach Billy Slater. If he's got time for everyone, and when I say time, it's not just like, yep, thanks mate, cheers. It's just a proper conversation. You're very good at, there's two things: making time for the people of Queensland, or the fans of the game in general, even New South Wales supporters. The other thing is that your values you model to the boys all the time. You don't say, guys, watch me, I'm about to do something that I think you should do, but you are constantly making decisions that they're watching, and I think you're very conscious of that.
Yeah, I am conscious that the players are always watching, but at the same time, that sort of stuff isn't. I'm not trying to manufacture that. That's like my mum and dad brought me up to be a good person, have respect for everyone, and I think that's where it stems from. That secondary to that, I understand these, especially Queenslanders in that environment. I understand what it means to them. I understand the conversations that they will hold for the rest of their life with someone like myself, or a Jonathan Thurston, or a Cameron Smith, or Josh Hannay. So I understand how much weight that holds, because I was one of those people. I was a kid that idolised this group, and that's really important to me. And then off the back of that, that Craig Bellamy story, players are always watching. They see everything, and if the people that are leading this organisation, leading this group, are doing certain things, well, that becomes infectious throughout the whole group.
Yeah, it's as someone who's never followed rugby league, it's kind of, I mean, it shouldn't be, but it is surprising to hear that like one of the most important values is to be a good person, and that's not for rugby league, but that'd be for any sort, like for AFL, for anything, any sort of quote unquote like manly, macho sport. It's so refreshing to hear that, and probably explains why you've been so successful.
It actually helps just in life in general, being a good person, doesn't it? I remember during COVID, and I was stuck up there in Queensland. My family were down here in Victoria, and I was staying in a.
You were playing at this time?
No, I was commentating at this time.
Yeah.
And there was lockdowns in Victoria. So I was away at the lockdown period, and I stayed up in Queensland to call games for Channel 9. And that was a decision that I made with my family. And Channel 9 supported me with that. And but I was up there for about 3 or 4 weeks, without my family, and I just remember getting down on. I was just the situation. I was away from my family, and I was just in a real down period. And I remember Hugh saying in one of his talks to us that, if you ever feel down, go and do something for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's nearly a selfish act to do something for someone else, how it makes you feel. So I went for a run along the beach, and I went and grabbed a coffee. And I actually, before I went and got a coffee, I ran past this lady sitting on the picnic bench, and she was obviously homeless. She was sleeping there, and so I got 2 coffees, and I went and gave one to her and sat down and had a bit of a chat with her, and she had no idea who I was. But that was really important, and something that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
That's actually triggered a memory that around the same time someone sent me a photo on Instagram. It wasn't something you'd posted. It was a homeless person, had put up a photo of you. You're sitting down on a milk crate and you're eating Baker's Delight with them.
That was in Sydney.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and that was a very, very similar situation. I actually wasn't down that time. I just went for a run in Sydney, and I ran past all these homeless people, and they were all congregated in this one area, and it sort of opened my eyes, and it wasn't so much about buying them breakfast. It was actually giving them my time, sitting down on a milk crate and having a conversation. And that photo was actually taken by one of them.
Yeah.
It was some of those moments, and I'm sure you've got so many moments, Hugh, but going to India and experiencing, those situations, and that's the good stuff, right? And they're the memories that you carry with you.
On the way you treat other people, there was another one that I love this story so much. Third game in Sydney, last one of the series. It's a very tense build up on the day. Sort of meeting in a hotel, get on the bus. The bus is like a police escort. It's one of the coolest things I've done in my life, but it's like a police escort straight into the ground. So the C's part, the cars part, and you go straight through like peak hour traffic at the stadium in 2 minutes. And we pull in there, team meetings, and it really is intense. Like having never experienced it before. The first time I remember you said, like, prepare yourself. It's pretty full on. We're in there, and a couple of the players are just throwing up in the bin.
Well, before the game.
Yeah, just spews.
The nerves.
Yeah. Really.
Just like Billy was chatting to them all. That's right, Billy
Wasn't on the back of a bender.
Those days are gone. 30 years ago, maybe.
So Billy's addressing the side before they go out there, and one of them sort of gets up, and he's still listening. He's making eye contact with Billy, but he goes over to the bin, and it's the biggest spew I've ever seen or heard in my entire life. No one batted an eyelid. And I was like, is this guy okay?
She's calling 000.
Billy didn't miss a beat, kept going with his pre-match speech. No one even looked over their shoulder. I'm thinking, how is this? Anyway, he just wipes it away. And if I'd spewed like that, I'd lie on the floor for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
He then walked out and played a game. But anyway, the players go up the race, and then there's like a security escort. Hawley will take Billy, Matt Bell and Josh Hannah and myself up to the coach's box. Why Billy wants me in the coach's box, I still don't know, but I'm there. It was an amazing moment last year where Billy said, one of them was listening to the umpires, the other one was talking to the assistant coaches on the ground, and you said, what's the tackle count? You just called it out. And I was thinking, oh, fuck, because I don't know the rules. And I was thinking, oh, everyone else is busy. Oh, and you turned around and you went, tackle count? And looked at me and I went, 3? You went, really? I went, oh, I made that up. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Who invited this guy?
Yeah, you did. Anyway, I'm so tense. I love being up there, but it's quite tense. But anyway, so we're going up to the box and we get in the lift, and the bloke operating the lift, so the 4 coaches get in there, a lot of people watching. Everyone's like, oh my God, there's Billy Slater. And we get into the lift. The lift operator, as this young man, presses the button to go to the lift, and the doors just didn't close and nothing happened. The game's starting, so the game's underway.
And you're in the elevator.
And we're in the lift, and you could hear the game kicking off, and this poor security guard presses the button again. And nothing happened. Everyone's getting extremely tense. Holly, our security guard who looks after us, is like, he's about to explode. And I won't repeat what he said, but he was like, what's going on? Why isn't this lift not working? And there's a few people trying to work at it, and this poor young man is just pressing the button. He's gone completely white. And everyone just sort of looked at Billy as if like, what
should we do?
Yeah. And then the person at the stadium goes, it's not working. We're going to have to walk. And the guy looked at Billy, Billy patted him on the shoulder and goes, that's okay, mate. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. We'll walk. We'll be fine. And it was such a calming moment for everyone. I was I was about to explode, and I didn't even know. I was just like, but the way you treated that young man in that moment, I thought says a lot about you. I guess as a leader, but probably more as a person. That he was about to pass out from his panic, and you said, "Mate, don't worry about it. It's fine. It happens. We'll walk." I thought that was a really nice moment that to me summarises you as a person.
Yeah, I think firstly, I realised once I walk out of that dressing room, I've got very little control of what happens next. So whether we miss the start of the game or not, you're the coach. And it's probably been a big thing for me to actually let go of responsibility and give that responsibility to the players. I think that's really important, and not try and control everything, because in that 80-minute period, there's only limited things that you can control. So I think I've become better at that. But at the same time, I got a bit of advice, when I first started out as a coach, to try and respond rather than react. And in that situation, reacting to the lift not working was going to get us nowhere. It was just going to create more of a anxiety within our coaching group. And this poor kid that, it wasn't his fault that the lift wasn't working. So I just tried to take into consideration everyone's feelings, and in particular that young fella. But yeah.
Can I ask about control? Because you mentioned it briefly there, the idea of control as a leader. Because I feel like a lot of leaders would be seduced by the idea that you have to control everything. How do you navigate that thing of like controlling some things but taking your hand off the wheel at some points?
Which, can I just jump in? Josh spoke to Josh Hanna yesterday, and he said that is your greatest strength, is handing stuff over to other people and letting them run with it and trusting them and not wanting credit for anything and just enjoying everyone's success as a group.
Yeah, I think I'm not too sure how to respond to that, but that is something that you have to do. You can't do everything yourself as much as you want to sometimes. And being a player, you are in control. And I'm probably more nervous as a coach than I was as a player, because as a coach, you've got to let go of control. And if you do try and control too much, well, you get out on the field and the players don't feel like they've got it. Your players have got to feel like that
they're not empowered.
That's their game. We're merely guiding this group, and the success that they've had over the last 2 years, I don't feel like I could take credit for that. All we've done is help guide them on this path. They've gone out and done it. It's
so interesting the way that you phrased that you are more nervous as a coach than you were as a player, because I feel like that speaks to, I guess we don't have to go here, but the growing up playing sport myself at a very low level, but any kind of sport, you see parents who behave pretty badly at sporting games. And I feel like it's so often about that thing of the lack of control, of seeing someone you care about and you love out there and not being able to control the outcome. So the lesson of being able to let go is, I think, just such an important one that I hope I can do when my kids are on a sporting field.
And that fear of failure too. Like don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to, like we often say in our Queensland environment, hey, well, we're not perfect. Be brave. All right, we make a mistake, we support each other, but we're not going to be perfect. We don't try and be perfect, because if you're perfect, you're not trying hard enough. You don't make a mistake, you're not trying hard enough. You're not pushing your own limits if you're not making mistakes. So mistakes are a part of life. Mistakes are a part of elite sport, any sport really. It's just giving you something to grow from.
You do. I did admire that when we were in the box together, and if someone made a big mistake, the whole crowd has a big response. There's like a whole, you can hear the noise from the crowd of just like, it's almost like everyone's all over that player at that moment. And you almost, as that noise from the audience or the crowd comes through, you always say, next play, it's all right, next play. You're very quick to, when someone makes a mistake, to move on to the next bit. I guess that's about being present.
Yeah.
Is that something that you...
Most of the time.
I was a couple of times.
A couple of times you might get excited and caught in the moment. But at the end of the day, what can you do about it? That's the biggest question you need to ask yourself. What's important for me right now? What's important for us right now? And as a player, you used to go through it and you used to have triggers. And the great players like the Cameron Smiths and the Cooper Cronks and Jonathan Thurstons, the great players can move on and can transition from that that disappointment into what is important for us as a team now, what is important for me as an individual now, and they can overcome that adversity.
I remember watching those moments, and I remember every time you would do that, I remember thinking, this is just a great metaphor for life. I've got to remember this. Like, it's like we all stuff up, but move on from it.
You do sort of notice, like I do notice that in watching AFL, because that's the sport I watch, but I notice that with players, it seems that often like the more mature they get as a player, if they make a mistake, if they're a good player, if they make a big mistake, like an obviously big stuff up, they don't react in the same way that you hope that they would. Like as a fan, if they miss a really easy goal, I want them as a human, I want them to be like screaming at themselves, being so upset because I'm so upset.
Yeah.
But the really good players don't react. They just sort of keep playing. I'm like, how can you not be so annoyed at yourself for that? But they probably are, but they just move on so quickly.
Yeah, and every player's different. Everyone's different, right? Everyone handles situations different. Some players might get upset with themselves and some players might do it internally. But you're right, the more mature you get, the better you can handle things. It's like in life. The older you get, the better you can handle situations and adversities, whereas when you're a kid, you jump up and down and you stomp your feet and you cry and throw yourself on the ground and all that sort of stuff. So you just learn to handle situations better as you get more experienced.
Yeah.
You mentioned difference there because that's something I've been fascinated about listening to you talk, thinking about the fact that you are the leader of how many men are in the squad?
Yeah, there's 17 on the field, and we would take probably 18 or 19 into camp with us.
Yeah, so 19 different men. And one thing that I've never really quite articulated this properly, so I'm sure I won't do it now, but it seems to me that in modern successful sporting teams, there's a shift from an old idea of we all have to fall into place in this one idea of what it is to be in this team to a more celebrating the individual to a degree.
Yeah.
Is that a conscious thing? Does that ring any truth to you? Or like how do you deal with different personalities when you're trying to get different personalities and different people to all pull in the same direction?
Yeah, it's a good question, Josh. It's something where this has been the evolution of elite sport, is not treating everyone the exact same because everyone handles things different. Everyone reacts different because at the end of the day, we want those 17 players to be individually at their best for that 80 minutes on a Wednesday night. For us to get that, we need to deal with individuals differently. There certainly is some non-negotiables in regards to the team that everyone needs to abide by. But I think to start with, you've got to get to know the individual. I think relationships are really important. Were they born in Australia? Have they got a different nationality? What was their childhood? So sitting down and having conversations, over dinner, sitting down having a beer with someone, like that's where you get to know people, and I think that's the first step in understanding what makes them tick and how to get the most out of them. So, it's a little bit like what we spoke about before is that positive feedback. It's putting that credit in the bank, and I probably shouldn't use the term credit in the bank because it's not so much a chore. It's just actually building a relationship with someone and creating that knowledge about them and having that vulnerability about yourself. And that's where it all starts, to understand what brings that best out in them.
It's, I guess it couldn't be, you do use the phrase credit in the bank, but I think it's clear that that's not the way you would really think about it, because if you thought that way, it wouldn't be genuine.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it would have to be a genuine connection that you're making with people because you enjoy doing that.
Well, we've used it. I haven't said this very much, but I don't like the term winning, because to me, winning has an element of luck to it. I'm more connected to the word earning. I grew up, in a working class family, And my mum and dad worked all their life. My mum worked 2 jobs, and we rented our whole life. So the real working class sort of environment that I grew up in. So everything you get, you've earned. So to me, winning, you win lotto. There's an element of luck to winning sometimes, and it just changes the mindset. And you've got to earn people's respect. You've got to earn the right to be a leader. And I really enjoy working with horses, and that's probably given me as much leadership knowledge from anything I've done in my life is actually working with a horse. And, you've got to build a partnership there. It's not a dictatorship. You've got to earn their respect. You've got to earn the right that they understand that you're not going to hurt them. They're a prey animal. So, earning is really big in my life, and I feel the focus on earning actually turns your mindset into working hard for it and putting in the yards.
It's like, I feel like that winning versus earning thing is, I feel that's so profound. And I've always had a real, not like a big issue, but I've always had like a strange thing about like awards, particularly like, I work in like acting or, and to win an Oscar, for example. I've always felt that's like, of course everyone wants it, but I've always felt like it's a bit of a shallow, I don't know, it's sort of an empty win or something. There's something about it. And I think that's exactly why, is because there is an element of luck to winning an award. Like you have to have the right people on the panel, but the actual really rewarding result of a good job is, like in acting terms, is earning your next role. So doing a good enough job that you can like earn another job from the work that you've done, like earn the respect or admiration of a director or someone that they'll go like, oh, that actor's great, I'm going to hire them for the next thing, as opposed to, and that's a practical thing you can actually
control.
You can control,
well.
or you can sort of control it, but you can do something with it, as opposed to like an award that you've won, which obviously feels good because it's praise and a group of people, and you can maybe trick yourself into thinking like, I earned that award, which maybe you did, but no more so than the other people who are up for the award.
It might be so because you know in yourself when you earn something, and you know in yourself when you get lucky with something.
Totally.
Inside you're your biggest competitor. You're the one. There's someone inside you always saying, "Oh, don't go for that run. Don't do this. Don't do that. Or don't throw that pass. You might." So you're your biggest competitor, I believe. So when you actually overcome something and work really hard, set some discipline goals in your life, and it doesn't have to be with sport. When you earn that, you inside, you don't always need a trophy. You inside know whether you've earned it or not.
Related to that, inside the walls of the Melbourne Storm, there's a quote, and I don't know it verbatim. But it's your quote, and it is, "You have the biggest influence over your own career." I think it's.
Yes.
Can you speak to that? Because I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant and related to what you were just saying there.
Yeah, that just came out of my mouth one day. I was actually retired. I was working with the St Kilda Footy Club, doing some leadership stuff there and other bits and pieces. And there were a group of CEOs and general managers from the sponsorship of the club. And I just spoke to them, and then we just had a bit of a conversation or some questions. And one lady asked me who the most influential person in my career was. And I'd never been asked that question before. So I sort of thought about it, and I thought my father's been really influential in my football career because of the passion that he instilled of the game in me. I thought Craig Bellamy, the story I spoke about before, and he was the only NRL coach that I'd ever been coached by. And then without even really thinking, I just said, I was. And everyone sort of sat back, and I thought, oh, geez, did that sound arrogant? And I said, I was the most influential person in my career. I said, I've had so much help, and there's so much good people around me, my teammates. Cameron Smith, certainly one. Cooper Cronk, Craig Bellamy. But if I didn't want to do it, it wouldn't have happened. I said, you've got to have that inner drive. And whatever you do in your life, you'll be the most influential person in that. And I've spoken about that story to the Melbourne Storm, and that's why it's up on the wall. And I feel it's very true. You will be the most influential person in your life. You'll have help around you. You'll have other people that are influential, but it'll be you where you get to and what you do.
So does that affect, would that affect like decision making in like things you should and shouldn't do? Like if you're like moving through a career, or even not even in work, but even just in, I don't know, family or life or whatever you want to do, is that kind of connected into the idea of listening to your own voice versus taking the advice of others? Like how does that?
It's more about what I spoke about before in terms of you're your biggest competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Because if anyone's going to hold you back to what you really want, it'll be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be that little voice inside you to say, don't worry about getting up this morning. You can sleep in for another 2 hours. Or, no, don't go for that job interview. It's probably a bit intimidating. Or, don't take the Queensland State of Origin job because you don't need it in your life. And, everything's going pretty well at the moment. It's you that's going to hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's overcoming that voice inside yourself and charging and challenging yourself in your life and become the best person that you can become.
Brilliant.
It's also quite interesting that, to me, that can be taken a few ways, but I think the really powerful way is, for me, as someone who often have a pretty negative internal voice of myself, but I think I've moved to a point where I've been wise enough, or I can have influence over myself by the people I keep around me that then strengthen my inner voice over time.
Yes.
Because I agree with you that at the pointy end, it's always going to be me who's either doing it or holding me back, but it doesn't always have to fall on my shoulders to get there. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think you're certainly a product of your environment, and putting yourself around good people gives you the best chance to be a good person. Putting yourself around hardworking people gives yourself the best chance to be a hardworking person. So I think that plays a factor in the environment that you put yourself in. But at the same time, you can put yourself in a good environment, in a hardworking environment, and still listen to that voice inside you to be a little bit lazy. So I still believe that it's still on you, but putting yourself in good environments and the environments that you want to be like is certainly going to help.
Another thing that happened on camp in the last series, which I thought was a great analogy for life, was one of the messages you continually gave to the boys was you only have so much energy. And you talked about where that energy should go. I love that so much because I took away, I knew you were talking about footy for them, but I was listening to that going, God, I need to apply that to my life. You only have so much energy.
Yep.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that, or why that was something you want to talk about with them.
It's probably because the situation of State of Origin, it can drain you. There is so much attention and so much demand around that build-up. That 10-day build-up for that Wednesday night game is incredible. And now more than ever, players have got opportunities to leak their energy into other things, social media, reading the papers and listening to the news. And there's so much opportunity for that for people in general now. So it was just a refocus of where are you putting your energy? What's most important for you in the next 10 days? So you only get a certain amount. And if we all start the 10 days with a full tank of energy, we want to get to that Wednesday night with as much of that tank full as possible.
It's kind of like if you're about to go out for dinner and your phone's only got like 25% battery and you're like, do you
Save
really
it.
want to watch that YouTube video? Because you're going to burn through at least 10, 15%.
That flight mode for a few minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was I had a journal with me for that second year on the camp, and I was taking notes about things I wanted to say the next time I addressed all the boys, but in the end I realised it was almost like what I wrote when you kept saying, I wrote protect your energy. I had that written down for myself, and I almost realised it was just things I was learning from Billy. It wasn't so much what I'm going to say at the next, it was like things, and that was a big one, protect your energy, which I absolutely loved.
Don't you think I reckon I have always kidded myself that I've got more energy than I actually have. And I've also kidded myself about where the energy is being leached throughout the day.
Yeah.
Does that ring true to anyone else? Because I feel like it's only something I'm starting to learn now that I actually can't do as much in the day, and that things have a drag on me that I didn't realise, and I've got to be more conscious of it, because that if I can't give to the things that I really care about, then it's the day is wasted, and you get that feeling of wastedness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just a personal observation.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely relevant, and your body lets you know, doesn't it? You know.
The other thing I wanted to touch on quickly before we let you go, Billy, and we're so grateful for your time. It's so great to chat. Just the theme for last series, just go on. The players spoke about it a lot in the media, so there's nothing new here. But I do think the origins of it are really nice, and I certainly think the fact it spoke to you in such a way that you then passed on to the playing group, I love so much. So the players at the end of every press conference or every social media they post, they all finish by saying Ubuntu, UBUNTU, which is a South African word, which means, translated, is I am because we are, basically. So about 6 months before this series started, I was on a plane and I was watching a documentary on the Boston Celtics in 2005, and their coach, Doc Rivers, came across this word Ubuntu, and he brought it to the playing group and said, that's going to be us this season. It was a beautiful message around I can't be anything without you. The better off you are, the better off I am. It's about the most beautiful approach to teamwork. And I saw that and I thought, oh, this is perfect for Queensland. I'm going to bring this to Billy. I reckon he'll love this. We could open the next camp with this. I took a screen grab of it and I tried to send it to Billy, but I was on a flight and it just didn't send, but I didn't notice that. It had the little red dots to it saying it didn't send, but I didn't notice, and I'd sent it. I thought, oh, well. And I never heard back from Billy. I was like, well, he didn't write it. That's fine. That's totally fine. No worries. And then about probably a month after that, Billy sent me a text saying, hey, mate, you're going to love this. I've just found this incredible thing I've heard about Ubuntu. And I was like, is this a joke? And then I just scrolled up and went, oh, it never sent. Anyway, so we had both come across this beautiful word, which we just thought it spoke about the Queensland experience, or the experience of being a Queenslander. Yeah. But also a state of origin footballer. And so that became our theme, and it was beautiful. I mean, I remember doing the original presentation to the players thinking, I reckon we've got this across the line here. I think they like it. I remember one of them kept saying, sorry, last time it was this. That was easy. How do we say this one? And that was a bit tougher. But I remember saying to them near the end of it, I said, if we're ever down a man, we're not really, because we've got this Ubuntu. We are so. And by the way, I'm not saying this is what we need to be good at this year. This is what you already do. I'm not here to say let's try and be this. I am because we are. This is what you already do extremely well. So I just want to celebrate what you guys do really well here. This is what you do, Ubuntu. And I said, if we're ever down a man, we're actually not, because we've got this extra person out on the field with us, Ubuntu. It's just that carries us an extra force, an extra energy. Joe, the team manager, had actually sent it to you a year ago. He'd sent it a year ago. So quite a few people had been bringing it into our world. And as it so turns out, we were down a man with about 5 minutes to go in the opening game, down 5 points, I think it was. I can't remember, something like that.
We'd faced so much adversity. That was over in Adelaide. I think we were down to 12 men. We'd had two of our centres, which are key, like their specific positions that you defend in. They were both off the field.
You're down to 12 and you're supposed to have 17.
No, we're supposed to have 13 on the field, 17 all up.
Oh, gotcha.
And we were under all sorts of pressure, and we were down on the scoreboard.
And I think both wingers were injured as well, I think.
Yeah.
And I was thinking I couldn't go the year before, the timing of the games, I couldn't get to them because we'd had a baby and I had COVID and all these things happened. So this is my first time at a game. And I was thinking, I do not want to be bad luck here. I really don't want to be bad luck sitting in a coach's box for my first game. And at one point I thought, well, there's no way we can win from here. Even I can tell we're not going to win from here. And someone made a comment about how it may not be our night tonight. And Billy said, hey, it's lucky we're Queenslanders, we'll be fine. And I was thinking, I'm not sure about that. But sure enough, well, I wasn't a Queenslander, clearly. I was clearly Victorian, speaking as a Victorian.
Honorary Queenslander.
Yeah, but Billy said, we're Queenslanders, we'll be fine. Sure enough, it goes down in the history as one of the greatest Origin wins of all time. And I was speaking to, I think it was Jonathan Thurston afterwards, and he said, he was on the sideline, he said, you should have heard him. We're down, man, they were screaming Ubuntu, like on the ground. They were screaming it during the game.
The players were?
Yeah.
I've got
Ubuntu.
chills.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But I wanted to bring that up because that to me summarises the experience of what the culture that you are a part of, what you've inherited and what you're now passing on. It's just the most selfless I am because we are. It's not about me. It's about all of us.
Yeah, and what you said there before is that we weren't trying to force this down the players' throats, and it was the reason why we resonated with this word and this movement when we first watched it, is because we thought I initially thought this is the group right now. They're living and breathing this right now. So I think that's why they grabbed onto it, because they felt this is what they were doing already. And it was just another thing to focus on where, this is a bigger picture than us. This is a higher purpose than what the individual was, a higher purpose than what the group is. This is for Queensland. We don't get this environment to play in, this atmosphere to play in, if our people don't have the passion for this footy team. So it was much bigger than just doing something for your teammate. That's selfless, but it's actually a bigger picture than that as well. So, to their credit, they latched onto it, and you could hear it all the time. They finished training sessions with it, and it was an amazing thing that they felt was theirs.
I remember even when you would post about it, Hugh, I remember even seeing comments from fans writing Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It really took off.
Every time I do an interview for Triple M up in Brisbane, that's what they start with. That's what they finish with. It's incredible. I was sitting at an airport. This is months after Origin. I was sitting at an airport. It was late at night. I was flying back from my Channel 9 commitments and back home. And these two guys came over to me, and they were so happy that they had the biggest smiles on their faces. And they said, can we get a photo? And I said, yeah, boys, no worries. And they took a photo, and they said, oh, we're Queenslanders. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, I am, because we are. Oh. And I was like, holy shit, what have we done? What have we created? But it's real. It's people feel like they belong to this footy team, and that's what it's there for. This isn't my team. This isn't anyone's team but the Queensland people. And whilst I'm the head coach of the Queensland State of Origin team, that's the way it'll be, and I think that's the way it'll be for forever.
Amazing.
Some of them went a bit too far with it. I remember walking past Cam Munster and I had a coffee, and he goes, "Where's mine?" And I went, "Oh, I didn't get one." He goes, "That's not Ubuntu."
You're exploiting Ubuntu.
Yeah. So you couldn't get on a bus without 30 coffees, otherwise you weren't being Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Well, on that, I also think it beautifully ties into the thing you were saying that was so profound at the start about strengths and weaknesses, and rather than focusing on the weaknesses, let's have few more of those strengths. It feels like it's a principle that was already there, that you're just like, this is a strength of ours. Let's really get the most out of this.
Yeah.
And let's celebrate what makes us special, rather than trying to impose a strategy or an idea that doesn't really fit the group.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with playing footy. It had nothing to do with running fast, tackling, catching a football. But it had so much to do with a connection of who they are as a group of men and who they are representing, and focusing on the bigger picture and taking the focus off themselves and putting it on the people that it means something to. So, like I said, coaching's important, footy's important, but there's a bigger picture element to it as well.
A lot of the stuff you're talking about really reminds me of Phil Jackson, who used to coach the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
A lot of his leadership stuff, he wrote a book called 11 Rings. And if people are interested in what you've been talking about, I highly recommend 11 Rings by Phil Jackson.
Yeah, okay.
I don't expect a comment on this at all, just a quick story to finish this out. So this year has been particularly challenging for Penny, myself, and our family. We had a bit of a rough run at some things at home. And Billy was very accommodating during last year's State of Origin series. I had to go home a couple of times because people weren't well, and I was very open with Billy and would share the struggles that we were having at home. And so 2 seasons ago, the theme that I brought to the group was gratitude, and the story around Stunson saying Dis, and the players loved that, and we would celebrate grateful moments with Dis. And last season was Ubuntu. looking back, I mean, I would often go to Billy and talk to him about the stuff I was going on through at home. Like the morning of a game, I'd be sitting down going, yeah, this happened. We're dealing with this. We're trying to work through this, and not even thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Billy's got a game tonight, and I'm talking about stuff at home that's going on. But I realised I was often talking about it because you would ask, you'd come over and say, hey, just checking in, how's everything going? Which I really appreciated. But the afternoon before the final game, we were staying in Parramatta. We were at a hotel in Parramatta, and we're getting ready to go to the game, and Billy sent me a text and said, are you in your hotel room? I said, yeah, I am. I sent him a hotel room number, and he knocks on the door 2 minutes later, and he presented me with 5 Queensland jumpers, one for myself, one for Penny, one for Benji, one for Elsie, one for Patrick. Had everyone's name on the back. So the kids' names on the back, Benji, Elsie and Patrick. And on the front, he'd had it specially made. It just said Dis and Ubuntu on the jumper.
Oh.
And in a year where we've been through a bit, it is when you're away from home and you love what you're doing, but you also feel bad you're away from home, to have someone thinking about you and your family like that, it is it's really hard to put into words how much that means. And I remember I called Penny straight away, and I was quite emotional. I was like, you will not believe this. And then I was thinking, hang on, we're at a game. Why is Billy giving me a jumper on the day of the last game of the series? And then I can't remember who I told the story. It was one of the players. And he went, oh, yeah, Billy gave me this. And I was like, oh, he does that for everyone. He's giving everyone things. Like, you are creating experiences and memories and feelings for everyone in the group, even a non-Queenslander who wasn't going to be playing on that night. And I just want to say, I was on behalf of the family, but really for me, that meant a lot, and it was incredibly special. And being part of your group and being invited in, it's been one of the highlights of the year for me. And I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, mate.
Pleasure.
Amazing. Wow. He got me those jumpers as well. Never met the guy. He just sent him to everyone.
Billy, it's such a thrill to have you here. What I didn't say at the start of the episode was when I first went into the Melbourne Storm to do my first ever elite sporting talk, I'd said to the great man, Brian Phelan, I'm not sure this is going to work. This is more of a schools program. And he said, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. At least we can do is try it. I walk in there, I'm so nervous. 2 or 3 of the boys got their iPads out because I want to watch the NBA basketball. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I should not be in here. These are the biggest men I've ever seen in my life. And I'm 5 minutes in, I'm thinking, I reckon this is going okay. And Billy puts his hand up and just said, mate, this is fucking awesome. Keep going. That vote of confidence from, now being from Melbourne, I recognised Billy, I recognised Cam, and I recognised probably Cooper. To have Billy say that, I don't know. It was a very special moment. And from that moment on, my life changed enormously because it ended up being every single NRL club and all the elite sporting. And it was because you said it was fucking awesome that I believed. You gave me so much belief. So I see what you did to me that day. I see what you do to the people of Queensland. It's a great pleasure to be part of your life. So thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. What a bloody honour to meet you.
Yeah.
That was unreal.
Ditto.
I'm freaking out on the inside.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.